The next aspect I wanted to look at was the type of things that we do when we think that we're doing self-care, but they are things that actually masquerade as self-care. And this is one of the burnt orange aspects on that grid at the beginning. So things like turning to comfort food, to sweet food, to high carb meals, junk food is a really common one. We all do it. Also, leaning to too much alcohol is sometimes used, isn't it, as a comfort, come home after a hard day. And also too much screen time, whether it's binge watching TV or phone games or trawling the internet. And all these things sort of feel like self-care, don't they? But the problem with them is that they don't actually lower our stress hormones. They don't lower our cortisol. And especially the screen time has been tough, isn't it? Because in lockdown, we've all been on screens so much. And it's really hard now to go through this process of withdrawal, of pulling ourselves away, because we know the theory, again, that just that much screen time is not healthy. But how do we pull away? So for all of these, whether it's turning to comfort food or alcohol or screens, for many of us, we just need to say, it's not actually true self-care. I need perhaps to pull back. Obviously, a little bit of any of them is fine, but you need to pull back? It's a question you might want to ask yourself. For about 10 to 20% of the population, any of those three areas can become addictive. Especially food and screens, there are a bunch of scientists who are paid to make this stuff as addictive as possible. That the dopamine neurotransmitter is the one in the reward centre of our brain. And both food and screen, certain aspects of screens, are designed to get a really big increase in our dopamine. They feel great. They feel artificially incredibly pleasant, which is why we get sucked into them. But our brain is always looking for balance. It's always looking to correct. So you get a massive high. It's going to lead to quite a long and an even bigger low. So unfortunately, if you feel like you're getting a bit addicted to some of these things, you end up spending a lot of your time with a chronic sort of low mood, apathy, meh feeling, and sometimes craving any of those three things. Now, not everyone's going to get in that position, but certainly some people will, and you might need a bit of help if you want to come off any of those three areas. And a good test is give yourself 30 days. If you can have no sugar for 30 days, no wine or alcohol for 30 days, or pick a screen that, maybe it's a phone game for 30 days, it's a good test as to whether you're addicted, which will be a small proportion of us, or it's just harmful use and you can pull back. There's a picture on the screen of two brains. One is the reward centre of your brain, so this dopamine centre on cocaine, and one is on sugar. In the next DSM, which is our Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, there's actually talk of putting sugar and processed foods on as an addictive substance for some, in the same way as alcohol is addictive for some. Because when we look at these MRI scans of the brain, sugar comes up as addictive as hard drugs for some of us. So just be careful that you're doing this healthy self-care and not these things which are masquerading as self-care.